Make yourself comfy. We're really glad that you're here. Episode of the More People Podcast. You've got me, Andrew Fitzmaurice from More People, and our guest today, Jim Waller of Fenmarc. For people who aren't as familiar with you as we perhaps are, who's Jim Waller? Who's Fenmarc?
So look, I mean, a bit of career history, sort of 20 odd years in retail. I started when I was started working part-time in Debenhams in Harrogate when I was a kid, and loved retail. Went and did a retail marketing degree at Manchester Polytechnic, which, as me and my wife say, degree in shopping, basically. And then ended up on the Tesco graduate scheme, moved into retail and worked at Tesco, then Safeway, then M&S. So that was 20 odd years doing that. But decided I wanted to run my own business, but had neither the idea or the kahunas to actually go out and do my own thing, and therefore ended up with Sandwith Brothers. So moved on to the manufacturing side, and I was MD of 2 or 3 businesses in Sandwith Brothers over the years. And about 2.5 years ago, landed at Fenmarc, family owned, independent business, packing prepared vegetables for the major supermarkets.
And how much today do you make use of the marketing degree from back in the day? And has a lot changed, or are the principles still the same?
I think quite a bit has changed in the over the years, as by the grey hair and the lines on my face. I think the biggest change is moving onto the supply side from having been on the retail side. Now, I look back and think how much better I would have been at my job in retail, having now worked on the supply side for 10, 12 years. I think the appreciation of the challenges that the supply base has in terms of meeting the needs of customers is something that when you're sitting in a retail business, having never worked in supply, is really, really difficult to appreciate. And therefore, that is probably the biggest change that I've seen, and the skills and what you need on each side of the fence. Whereas in retail, you tend to be potentially quite adversarial. You tend to need to stir things up a little bit, generate competition. All we want to do on the supply side is to forge long-term partnerships with customers, have some certainty about the future, and serve customers as best we can. So yeah, it is quite a different skill set. And I think certainly my time in the last 10 or 12 years in supplying the supermarkets, my job today is much more about managing people. You're having a dialogue with a senior customer, a director in a Tesco or wherever it might be, and the next minute you're down on the factory floor and you're having a chat with one of the operatives about what his kids did at the weekend and all that kind of stuff. And it's managing to balance and work in that way is the biggest challenge for me.
Are you seeing more collaboration then?
I think as you will know, as we all know, the consolidation in the marketplace on the supply side with quite a number of operators disappearing, in recent times and over the years, or consolidation with businesses getting together, means that the nature of the relationships now have to be more collaborative, because there are fewer options for customers to turn to. So yeah, I feel it's a lot better in terms of investment and how we want to develop and grow the business than for the long-term future and people's livelihoods. Then I think it has got better. Still work to do, mind. Different customers have different methods, but overall I think supply chain shocks, particularly in produce and other food businesses, of the last few years have ended up that everybody recognises that that's the route we need to go.
The more long-term nature of supermarket agreements to work with suppliers, it allows you, as you say, to invest and think about less transactional today problems and more future problems. What sort of things are we talking about? What sort of initiatives or long-term investments have you made or can you make with that guaranteed work?
Fenmarc as a business, as I say, Mark Harrod, who is the owner of the business, Mark and Rachel, his wife, they invested heavily post-Brexit, or the Brexit vote. So 2017, 2018, 2019, lots of investment in automation in the factory to reduce the reliance on labour. So that's kind of a historic investment. There's lots of things that we still need to do and want to do. And we've just made investments in the last sort of 12 months around what we would term as a business our sourcing excellence. So working in prepared veg, you tend to be one step removed from the agriculture and the growing of the crops. Last October, we bought Alfred G. Pierce, who grow lots of their own carrots and parsnips, as well as contracting onions. That's the core of their business, and they are 100% service into the non-retail sector, whereas Fenmarc is 100% retail. So we've made that investment in AGP to get closer to the growing side of the business. We've developed the site at Fenmarc for us to bring many more operations that previously had to be done externally and by service providers. We've bought those in-house in the last 12 months. So those are the big investments that we've made recently. And in terms of future, I think if we want to grow and we want to continue to develop and expand the business in its capability as well as its scale, then probably the next level of investment is us looking at bigger and better facilities and broadening that capability with what we might want to, how we might want to manufacture product, or what it is that we actually want to manufacture.
Yeah. Being integrated with the growing side of things has always struck me as being a really good proposition to a retailer, because you own the end-to-end supply as opposed to being a transactional middleman, which is where we've seen some of the consolidation over the years, those middlemen being taken out. But with the connection to the growing, it allows you, I'm guessing, to get more intimately involved and more innovative in varieties and new product development as well.
Yeah, it does, but that actually comes from two ends within Fenmarc. So you're absolutely right in terms of us being closer to the growing. Then in terms of so if I take what we've done in the last 12 months, we've spent a lot of time with potatoes. Historically, we used to buy potatoes from Greenbale, 3Ms and whoever else, and we're actually now beginning to look at forging close relationships with growers and growing our own potatoes. So that's positive. In terms of the innovation, one of the big factors that we have in Fenmarc is Mark also under Fenmarc Holdings we have the Agelis Hotel Group. So Tuddenham Mill in Suffolk, and we've also got a property in Ely in Cambridgeshire, where we have fantastic restaurant, fantastic chef patron and director, a guy called Lee Bai. And Fenmarc don't actually have their own development chefs. We use the team at Tuddenham Mill to work with the development team at Fenmarc in terms of taking fantastic product, because they're serving products every day. They're getting instantaneous feedback from customers in the restaurant, what's working, what they like, what they don't like, and feeding that in, marrying it in with the briefs we get from retail customers in terms of new product development, and hopefully coming up with some fantastic new innovation and new products there.
What can you do with the category?
Fenmarc, just over a year ago, we launched our own brand, a brand called Vegetable, which has been in Tesco for 12, 14 months now. And that is essentially a raw veg-based meal, but it has some additives in it. Additives as in gnocchi in one dish, it's got some rice in another dish, it's got grains and lentils in it in another. So it's creating a veg-based meal that we think is a much better quality than that you can find in the meal accompaniments fixture, in the ready meals fixture, where you tend to have something that is pretty bland, pretty tasteless, tends to be vegetables of some sort with some cheese with it, and they're a reheat job. Everything's already cooked in there, so you're just reheating to eat. Vegetable, and an ethos we have in Fenmarc, which stems again from my M&S days, first cook is best cook. So it's raw vegetable meals that you can either stick in the oven, stick in the microwave, or whatever.
Cook once.
And it gives you 1, 2, 3 of your 5 a day, whatever it might be. And therein lies the future for us, which is we are in a place where we've got a great opportunity. People say that they want to eat more healthily. Practice is slightly different, but we're right in the sweet spot of dietal trends. Lots of the weight loss drugs at the moment, and lots of noise. I think about 2.5% of the UK population are on the weight loss drug. In the States, it's 10%. Right. You can only therefore see that going one way, and therefore the food that people do eat, they want it to be more healthy and nutritious rather than necessarily the snacking and unhealthy stuff that lots of people consume today.
And how's the brand or the concept of starting a brand going?
Tesco have been really supportive, and that's been great. Have we done everything right? No. Have we learned quickly? Yes. Have we kind of reformulated, redeveloped, looked at the concept and the eating occasion that's trying to meet. Yes, so you're constantly evolving. But I think also the retailers find it quite tough. So, working closely with Tesco on root and soul, we all sit there and talk about these products should be absolutely in that sweet spot of what people want to buy in terms of the consumer trends. But it's a challenge. It's really, really difficult. But that doesn't mean we're going to stop having a go.
What have you learned, or what advice would you give back to your perhaps former self in those retail roles?
It is about. It goes back to that collaboration piece. Is by having a positive relationship with the people who supply into you. So to your point of what would I tell my former self? It's about really understanding the supply chain. So one of the best things that I ever did in my career when I was at Safeway, I'd been in trading, and Safeway was a tough environment. It was neither a leader on price nor quality, and therefore you had to fight hard for getting decent deals with suppliers, which led to a quite hard-nosed and adversarial negotiating position. And I was progressing up the business, and then I ended up being asked to go on a project. Now, I think sometimes nowadays people think of projects and it's kind of like it's a development opportunity. Back in the 1990s, it was you suddenly into the exit lounge, I think, was more the thought of what people who were put on projects. So I was put on this project called Supply Chain Strategy, and it was essentially re-engineering the end-to-end supply chain all the way from the back door of a supplier's factory all the way to the shelf edge to when the consumer picked it up in the store. And that 2.5 years, the knowledge that I gained and the experience I gained in that time is probably the most valuable thing that I've ever done in my career, because you began to understand the challenges, and it helped pave my way to go to M&S, which was a very different type of business. M&S were a supplier without factories, and their suppliers were retailers without shops.
Yeah,
the relationship was so tightly bound because of those dedicated facilities that they had. And I'm not sure, without having done that supply chain strategy experience at Safeway, that I would have actually been able to adapt. It's with all of these things where you have plenty of choice and you can move stuff around and move business around, then you tend to do it if you have the opportunity, because price is the lowest common denominator. That's partly why we've ended up in the marketplace we have today, because of so many businesses thinking they can survive by being uber competitive, and then actually you find that you can't.
Now you're a farmer, fully integrated into the supply chain, and it'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the weather.
Yeah, I mean, you amongst my friends, I am the harbinger of doom when it starts raining, and I'm the guy who's punching the air and enjoying it. But undoubtedly, the challenges of I think the driest and the warmest spring on record. At the same time, last year you couldn't get in the fields because they were waterlogged. So the contrast is really, really difficult. I think that the 12 months we've just come out of. So if I think of from summer 24 through to summer 25, been relatively benign. You always have challenges on various crops, but generally it's been better than the previous 2 or 3 years.
Well, this industry is chock full of resilient, tenacious people. The weather was always thus, I suppose, in the challenges. I'm sure we can tackle them, and we'll come out smiling.
I hope so.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Jim. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Andrew. Been a pleasure. Thank you.